Welcome to our weekly edition of Hendo at Home. I have a verse that's the theme for this evening's time or this morning's time, whenever you listen. It is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 22. Jesus was asked, what is the greatest commandment? And he said, actually, there are two. Love God with all your heart, but love your neighbor as yourself. So I want to apply that second part, love your neighbor as yourself, to two different things that we're dealing with at the moment. We're doing our best to meet people's needs in the light of the new requirement to wear masks given by our government. If you can't be 6 feet apart indoors, you're supposed to wear a mask. Now the purpose of that is to keep the masks are to keep you from spraying droplets so you won't spread the disease. They can't prevent you from getting it, but they are supposed to keep you from spreading it. So because we are now wearing masks downstairs and wearing masks upstairs, we have taken the tape off of the pews. But to help those who cannot wear masks, we have left every other pew taping upstairs in the balcony, so anybody who cannot wear a mask, they can go to the balcony. We also have a few pews downstairs for those who can't walk stairs but can't wear a mask. Now I'll just be honest with you, I'm one of those who does not like to wear masks. It's hard to breathe in them and they are frankly aggravating. But I'm now wearing a mask on Sunday when I enter this church, and I wear a mask when I enter stores as the governor has ordered us to. And I'll tell you why you'll see me wearing a mask on Sunday. 3 reasons. Number 1, the Bible teaches us that we are to obey the laws of government unless they contradict the laws of God. Wearing a mask does not violate God's laws. Our governor has mandated that if you can't be further than 6 feet from someone indoors, you must be wearing a mask. Number 2, I'm wearing a mask as an action to show love for my neighbor. Now, wearing a mask can't prevent me from getting the virus, but it may prevent someone from spreading it. So when I'm near someone and I wear a mask, I'm showing that person, especially the neighbor I don't know, that I'm concerned for their welfare. But the third thing I want you to hear from my heart is this. I believe wearing a mask on a Sunday is a small price to pay for the privilege of worshiping the Lord with His people. I would frankly be willing to cross any barrier that was laid out before me for the privilege of being in church on Sunday. God said we're not to forsake the assembling of ourselves together, and I want you to know the Lord is more important to me than this mask. Now, with that said, I do believe that there are detrimental effects from wearing a mask for an hour. Wearing the mask increases your intake of carbon dioxide. It decreases the amount of oxygen your body is given. So if you don't mind, I'm going to put my mask on and give you a demonstration of what you can do in order to make it for the entire hour. First of all, you have to take off glasses. That's obvious now. But what I do when I'm worshiping is I take my thumb and pull the bottom out. That will keep me from spewing droplets, but it allows oxygen to come in. Now, a lot of our brothers and sisters love to worship the Lord with their hands raised. I'll be worshiping the Lord with my thumb on my chin to get the oxygen. Now, I know these things are trying, but remember, we're doing this out of love for the Lord. Now, the second application I have tonight for love your neighbor as yourself is this. We need to love our neighbors ourselves in this time of turmoil by being considerate of our black brothers and sisters. I hear many of my Christian friends say they do not pay attention to the color of their black friends. They're simply their friends or their brothers or sisters in Christ. And I understand that. I have one adopted black grandchild, and I have another daughter who's raising 2 foster black grandchildren. I consider them and love them all as a part of my family. We need to love people with no distinctions in our love. In fact, one of the great passages of the Bible I think that needs to be heard today is Galatians 3:28. There is neither Jew nor Greek, neither slave nor free, neither male nor female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. But let me go a little farther. A part of loving my neighbor is making the attempt to walk in the shoes of our black brothers and sisters. As I've been speaking with my black friends, I see that their feelings have really risen to the surface and need to be heard. Can I remind you that it was not that long ago that in the South we had those horrible Jim Crow laws? I grew up in a day when I remember bathrooms that a black person couldn't enter, water fountains a black person couldn't drink from, restaurants a black person couldn't go in. That was demeaning, and that was wrong. I grew up in that day and time. Ronnie Pepper grew up in that day and time, who I interviewed just a few weeks ago. And I want you to know, for so many in our black community, the scars still remain. They have not healed. Now, most of us whites have not experienced the racism that still exists today, and I need to remind you it does. My black friends can point to times recently when someone called out the N-word as a way to try to wound them emotionally. That happens in Hendersonville. A pastor friend of mine spoke about a time when his daughter was playing on the girls' basketball team. They went to a town that is known for its racism, and while she played basketball on the court, hecklers from the stands kept using the N-word, shouting it at her. And she was devastated hearing the N-word, but what even hurt her more was not a single person in the stand rose up to see that that was stopped. They were allowed to heckle throughout the whole game. Racism still exists. I heard a Christian former NFL player recently say something that resonated with me. He said, both blacks and whites have trials in their lives, but white people don't have trials simply because of the color of their skin. Black people do. I want to close this time with you by commending the Mississippi Baptist Convention for voting last week to ask the state to remove the Confederate flag from being a part of the state flag. It was an action not only approved by every member of their board, by every current officer of the convention. Every living past president of the Mississippi Baptist Convention also signed that article requesting that the Confederate flag be removed. Now, I'm hearing people say about things like this, well, that flag is simply a part of our history. Maybe that's true for some of us who are white. But would you stop and think about how a black brother or sister feels when they look up at their state flag and see that that symbol was flown by those who fought to keep them enslaved? They fought to keep them to be considered as nothing but property that could be killed at will without consequences. Loving your neighbor as yourself is one of those nice sounding phrases until you started applying it to masks and black-white relationships. I know I'm going to get in trouble for this particular video, but Christianity is not about making things about us. It's when I go beyond myself to say, how can I walk in somebody else's shoes? How can I feel what they are feeling? It's about loving your neighbor as yourself. And that gets to the heart of the motto that we live under in this church. We are here to lift up Jesus and love people. May we ever do that. God bless you.